It's time to get rolling on the level 2 spells for the 1st edition Pathfinder Cleric. Hello there everyone, and welcome back down here to the Gamer's Den with me, your host, Jordan, your master of lore and storyteller extraordinaire, where we are finally feeling winter's chill descending upon us. Today we are going to be taking a look at the 1st edition Pathfinder Cleric, specifically their 2nd level spells today. I'm going to try to break this up a little bit more, go over just a little bit more detail, like I said, trying a couple of different things as we go along here, trying to find ways to improve to make the guides just that little bit better of a quality. But before we get into everything we have on offer for you today, if you're new here to the channel, then go on down there, hit the subscribe button, and become a regular member here at the Gamer's Den. Or if you've already gone on ahead and listed yourself on just such an incredible roster of legendary heroes, then why not go down there to hit the like button and share the video far and wide. But now we're going to dive straight on into this. So for level 2 spells, one of the first things to pick up is Ashen Path. This is a spell I've talked about a few times before, but what it does, if you haven't seen this spell covered before, is you grant target creatures immunity to contaminated air, so ash, dust, etc. Any poisons that might be lingering in the air, as a fog or something like that. And they get a +4 save bonus to magic effects like these. Also, you grant the ability to see through magic obscuring effects like ash, smoke, fog, up to 60 feet. This lasts 10 minutes per level, and the duration must be split between targets, so it's an important thing to note there. But it does mean you're going to be able to provide this to most of your party, and that duration is probably going to last through the time limits on the kind of spells that you need to be seeing through. But just bear in mind that this is also an Arcanist, Druid, Oracle, Ranger, Sorcerer, Wizard, Hunter, and War Priest spell. So you automatically know this, but if your party members know this and are making use of it, then maybe you can skip having this prepared that day. So it's something definitely you need to keep in mind. But going on from Ashen Path, we come to Burst of Radiance. Target a 10-foot area burst within 400 feet plus 40 feet per caster level, so the most extreme of ranges, and fill the area with a burst of light that blinds creatures for 1d4 rounds, or dazzles for 1d4 rounds on a successful reflex save. So normally dazzling is only an okay debuff to throw on there. Like, it's certainly better than nothing. But what makes this good is that this is the after effect, even if they save. This is still something that they're going to have to contend with. And the fact that you're affecting multiple foes with the kind of area that you're reaching, and with this range, you're going to be able to place this pretty precisely in order to maximize the number of targets that you're potentially blinding or dazzling. And also, evil creatures take 1d4 damage per caster level, maxing out at 5d4 regardless of the save. So again, that damage isn't great, but the fact that it happens regardless of whether or not they save, so you're dealing a little bit of damage to everybody and at least leaving them dazzled. All the way around, pretty handy spell. Great way to quickly hand out some quick debuffs, and blind is definitely a devastating effect to leave on somebody. Then we have Weapon of Awe. Touch a weapon, and for 1 minute per caster level, it gains a +2 sacred bonus on damage, and on a critical hit, the target is shaken for 1 round with no save. So shaken, another debuff applied, and for 1 round with no save, that's incredible. Now, the 1 minute per caster level duration means you're probably not going to use this well before a fight and see it continue through several. This is something that you're probably going to want to keep handy for either when things get incredibly desperate, or if you know this is going to be a big fight and you want to have this in place. And the sacred bonus, while you do supply some other sacred bonuses down the line, it's still uncommon enough that this is pretty reasonably going to be stacking with other buffs or effects that you might have going on you. And the fact that this is going straight to damage is going to help with your damage output in combats for levels and levels to come. Then we come around to Iron Skin. This is another one with a 1 minute per caster level duration. You gain a +4 enhancement bonus to your natural armor, and you always count as a +0 bonus if you don't have a bonus in place. This natural armor bonus increases by 1 every 4 caster levels above 4th, max of a +7 natural armor bonus at level 16. If you are hit with a crit or a sneak attack, you may voluntarily end this spell and make the attack a normal hit. So not only is this helping to make you more durable, more survivable, more able to tank hits and not have them affect you just glancing off of your armor, if you do take the absolute worst kinds of damage, the critical hit, the sneak attack, whatever precision damage is going your way, you can now end this spell and turn that to a normal hit. Sure, that's still not going to feel great either, but at least it's not going to be double, triple, or even quadruple damage or stacking on an extra 6d6 in sneak attack dice. Definitely an incredible spell, and since we are a build that's going to have wading into melee either as a nice close second or maybe close tertiary option, Iron Skin is going to be really useful. Absolutely great to have, even if you're not planning on wading into a fight. Just having this on and in place on the off chance that you do get flanked by some kind of a sneaky lucky little rogue, this will be a great spell to just have handy for those especially dangerous fights. Then we come around to Resist Energy. It's a standard action to cast. Touch range for one creature lasts 10 minutes per caster level, so incredible duration. You select either from Acid, Cold, Electricity, Fire, Sonic, and grant the target damage resistance 10, 20 at 7th level, and 30 at 11th level against that type. So that's pretty incredible to have, keeping in mind that also if you're applying this to, say, a rogue and they're getting out of the way of a fireball and you've selected fire resistance for them, between their dexterity and their reflex saves, they're going to negate a lot of damage right there from the get-go. And with that damage resistance in place, it's very likely that they're not going to take any damage. I mean, considering that the average damage for 10d6 is going to be about 30, they're probably not even going to have to worry about if they fail their save. So Resist Energy is going to be useful just about no matter the campaign, no matter the fight that you're going into, for the simple fact that you can select from all of those elemental damage types. Now we have Lesser Restoration. This has a 3-round casting time, so really it's not going to be anything you cast mid-fight. Touch target creature and dispel any magical effects, reducing one of the target's ability scores, or cures 1d4 temporary ability damage. It also removes fatigue or improves the exhausted condition to fatigued. Doesn't restore permanent ability drain. This is incredible as a potion. It's expensive, but it is amazing. I've made use of these in gaming. My players' parties have used these potions. Absolutely great to have in a pinch. You're not going to be able to afford a lot in the early levels, but still great to have. Also, just bear in mind that restoration immediately replaces this pretty fast. Next, we have Bull's Strength and the other stat buffs, like Eagle's Splendor as another example. Touch target creature and give a +4 enhancement bonus to Strength or whatever the specified stat might be. So these start off really good early levels, but by about level 6-ish, 7, maybe even level 8, you're going to start more and more coming across stat buffing items that are already enhancement bonuses. And this spell doesn't scale. These spells don't scale their enhancement bonuses. They don't keep up. So at a certain point, your party is going to start getting the belts or the headbands that are necessary for increasing either their physical or their mental stats, and they're probably going to exceed what these spells can provide. Until that point, these are going to be handy, but then it's going to be something that kind of falls by the wayside unless you're playing, say, a cleric with the feather subdomain and you've got an animal companion. Then you're being able to supply that animal companion an enhancement bonus is going to be kind of handy. But it's not always going to be the most useful or optimal thing for you to do. Now, some other spells that are situational or kind of bad. First, we have Magic Boulder. This works as Magic Stone, except that you can target 3 boulders up to 2 size categories larger than yourself to use with rock throwing ability, which giants typically have, or siege engines. The damage increases by 1 step, so if it did, say 2d10, it's now dealing 2d12, if I'm not mistaken. And then it also gains a +1 enhancement bonus, so it's counting as a magic weapon at that point. So a lot of campaigns, this probably isn't going to come up. But if you're in a situation where you have access to artillery that's lobbing boulders, then this is going to suddenly become much more useful for you, especially if you're playing in a war campaign where you're sieging castles, you're attacking fortifications, you're defending against sieges, and trying to destroy the opponent's siege engines. Magic Boulder is going to be incredibly valuable then. I mean, so are a lot of your other spells, but in that instance, as like the opening salvos, having this on hand to cast is probably going to be pretty handy. Then we have Web Shelter. You make an insulated, watertight tent for 1 medium creature that lasts 1 hour per caster level. It burns really easy, but here's the thing. It is a shelter spell, which those are normally pretty handy, but this is a 1-person sized shelter, maybe 2 small creatures. It's really not all that great. I mean, this is replicated by a tent, and you didn't have to expend a spell slot for your tent, assuming your DM or the rest of the party hasn't figured out some other means of addressing safety, shelter, and accommodation in the campaign. So it's not that great, and this very much falls into the same category as a similar category to the Cure Light Wounds, Cure Moderate Wounds, all of those spells. Yes, the healing is effective, but because your stats or abilities don't degrade in any way, even when you're down to your last hit point, I mean, there's no reason to really prepare them, heal outside of a fight using a Wand of Cure Light Wounds, and if you really do end up needing to throw down a healing spell, you can just swap it out. You're able to exchange any prepared spell slot for one of your cure spell slots, but even less so in this case, because that at least will let you fix people. This is outside of combat, doesn't provide any defense except for against exposure to the elements. It's probably only going to be useful inside of, say, campaigns very much focused on survival and dealing with the elements, but even then, you're gonna have tents. You're going to have solutions to that don't require a spell slot. And even if it does, the rest of the party's kind of screwed unless they have similar magics available to them. So really, yeah, this is one that you're probably going to be able to skip like 90% of the time. But some other second level spells to keep an eye on. First, we have Summon Monster 2, summoning a Celestial Wolf or 1d3 Celestial Eagles or Ponies from Summon Monster 1. Those are probably going to be some of your best bets with this, especially since we are leaning a bit more into summoning in order to help level the playing field and make it so we don't maybe necessarily have to supply quite as many buffs. You still have them handy, but you get the idea. You're tipping the action economy in your favor with this, providing flanking as you place the summoned monsters that you bring in, and any enemy attacks that go towards these summoned creatures, those are attacks not going to the flesh and blood players. So definitely great to have, works with our build. Also look at Shackle. It's a scaling spell to bind targets together with level scaling, size, and magical material options. So you create magical materials, magical manacles, you're able to bind 2 separate targets together, or bind up 1 target. You decide if they're in the front or the back, and they have a whole host of other effects available to them. So Shackle's definitely worth looking at and considering. And also, don't forget about communal protection from alignment, so protection from evil. This is the communal version. Protect multiple targets as per protection from alignment. Divide duration in 1-minute increments amongst the targets. So, communal protection from evil had a decent enough duration on it. So communal protection, since is working more or less the same way, you're going to have plenty of minutes to spread around the party. This is going to be massively helpful. Whichever alignment you need specified is going to be very handy. Just try to do some research beforehand so you stand better odds of knowing what is going to be in your way and what you're going to be dealing with. And this is just the tip of the iceberg, though. There's plenty of other spells available. Most of them are, I'd say a decent number are good, but level 2 actually has a decent number of spells that you probably also want to look at avoiding, too. But these kinds of spells, compare them with these other spells that haven't been gone over. Take a look pretty closely and see if they're roughly equivalent in what they can do. Not everything transfers 1-to-1, but this should still help overall with identifying which spells are going to be useful, which ones are going to be situational, and which ones it's probably going to be better to have either as a wand, potion, or a scroll. But what do you think? Go on down to the comments below and let me know your thoughts. Did you like today's video? Did you dislike it? Hit the like or dislike button either way down below and leave your thoughts in the comments as well so that we can engage in discussion about this. I try to be responsive. Things are never not hectic around here or busy or with my mind wandering off, even with the medication I have helping me. It's just going to take a little bit of time sometimes. I apologize if I haven't responded to your comments yet. I am definitely trying, but with all that said, I've been your host, Jordan, your master of lore and storyteller extraordinaire. Thank you all so very much for your time. Good gaming to you all, and you all have yourselves a good night.